Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back to Timeless Romance Tales. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dark aristocratic romance, dangerous bargains, and stories where power bends in the face of devotion. Now let's begin. The crown never summoned women like her for honorable reasons. Isolde Fairmont knew that the moment the royal seal appeared on her letter. She stood by the narrow window of her rented rooms, parchment trembling between her fingers, the city below muffled by morning fog. The summons was brief, precise, unavoidable. You will present yourself at Whitehall before dusk. Your cooperation is expected. No explanation. None was needed. Isolde had lived long enough under noble shadows to understand how the crown worked. It did not ask. It collected. By the time she entered the privy chamber that evening, her spine was straight, her expression carefully neutral. Lord Chancellor Harrow stood near the fire, hands clasped behind his back, eyes sharp with calculation. "You know why you're here," he said. "I was summoned," Isolde replied evenly. Harrow smiled thinly. "Ever careful with your words. That will serve you well." She waited. "The Duke of Westmere," he continued, "has become inconvenient." Her pulse quickened, but she did not let it show. Duke Lucian Ashcraft, the most powerful landholder in the north. A widower. A strategist. A man who did not bend easily, and worse, one who no longer feared consequences. "He has refused 3 direct requests from the crown," Harrow said. "He has redirected funds without explanation. He has shielded certain families from taxation." Isolde frowned. "That sounds like governance, not treason." Harrow's gaze sharpened. "Careful." She lowered her eyes. "What do you require of me?" "You will go to Westmere," he said. "You will observe the Duke, gain his trust, discover what he is hiding." "And if he is hiding nothing?" "Everyone hides something," Harrow replied. "Especially men with power." Her stomach tightened. "Why me?" "Because you are unthreatening," he said bluntly. "Unmarried. Respectable. Easily overlooked." "And my refusal?" Harrow stepped closer. "Your father's estate has unresolved debts," he said quietly. "Your younger cousin's name appears in certain ledgers. We would hate for investigations to become public." The room felt smaller. Isolde closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. "I will go." Westmere was colder than she expected. Not in temperature but presence. The estate loomed over the surrounding land like a fortress. Stone walls weathered by centuries, gates heavy with ironwork, guards stationed not for ceremony but readiness. The Duke met her in the entry hall. Lucian Ashcraft was taller than she remembered from court functions, broader, darker in temperament. His expression was composed, but his eyes missed nothing. "Miss Fairmont," he said, "you requested sanctuary." "Yes, Your Grace," she replied. "My family estate is under repair." A lie crafted by the crown. Lucian studied her for a long moment. "Westmere values privacy," he said. "If you stay here, you will respect that." "I do," she said. "Deeply." Something flickered behind his eyes. "Then welcome," he said. "For now." From the beginning Isolde watched. She watched how Lucian managed his household with quiet authority. How servants moved without fear. How disputes among tenants were resolved swiftly and fairly. This was not a tyrant. Nor was he careless. He rose before dawn, worked late into the night, met with stewards, magistrates, and local leaders without pomp. "You don't entertain," she observed one evening over dinner. "I don't perform," he replied. "And court?" she asked. His mouth curved faintly. "Court performs enough without me." She sent her first report after a week. "The Duke conducts himself with discipline. No evidence of sedition." The reply came the next morning. "Look beneath the surface." So she did. She wandered wings she had no reason to enter. Listened where walls carried whispers. Memorized the names of visitors. And slowly, she noticed something troubling. Families protected from crown levies. Names erased from conscription lists. Debts quietly resolved. Her own cousin's name appeared once, then vanished. One night, she followed Lucian to the West study. The ledgers were there. Detailed. Precise. Dangerous. He was not hoarding power. He was shielding people from it. She confronted him the next evening. "You've been protecting families the crown wants broken," she said quietly. Lucien did not deny it. "Yes." Her breath caught. "Why?" "Because they don't deserve ruin," he replied. "And the crown?" she asked. "You know what they'll do to you." He met her gaze. "Let them try." The truth struck her harder than any confession. "You know why I'm here," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "You're here to expose me." Tears burned her eyes. "They threatened my family." "I know," he said softly. She stared at him. "You've been paying their debts." "Yes." "You let them think you disloyal." "Because it keeps their attention on me," he finished. "Not on them." Her voice broke. "You're making yourself a target." "I already am," he said. "I simply chose the terms." The crown grew impatient. Isolde's next letter was explicit. "We require proof, documents, testimony, or confirmation of guilt." Her hand shook as she folded it. That night she told Lucien everything. "They'll destroy you," she said. "Publicly." Lucien listened without interruption. When she finished, he said, "Then we end their leverage." "How?" "There is one position the crown cannot easily undermine," he said. Her heart stuttered. "My wife." Silence thundered between them. "You would marry me," she whispered. "To silence them?" "To protect you," he corrected. "And everyone else they'd sacrifice." She shook her head. "That's not fair to you." Lucien stepped closer. "Isolde," he said quietly. "Fairness is a luxury. Choice is not." Her voice trembled. "And what do you want?" His answer came without hesitation. "You beside me." The wedding was announced without warning. No court approval. No spectacle. The crown was furious, but powerless. A duchess could not be compelled quietly. Westmere closed ranks. The crown summoned Lucien to court. Isolde went with him. They stood together beneath the vaulted ceiling as accusations were leveled and deflected. "You manipulated a royal agent," Harrow accused. Lucien did not flinch. "I married a woman of my choosing." Isolde lifted her chin. "I am no one's agent," she said calmly. "And I will testify to that publicly." The crown retreated. Again. Later, in the quiet of Westmere, Isolde stood on the balcony, night air cool against her skin. "You didn't have to marry me," she said. Lucien joined her. "Yes," he replied. "I did." She turned to him. "This began as manipulation and became alliance," he said. Her voice softened. "And now?" His hand covered hers. "Now," he said, "it's choice." Love did not arrive like fire. It arrived like shelter, like standing beside a man who knew the cost of power and paid it willingly to protect others. The crown had wanted the Duke exposed. Instead, they had made him untouchable. And Isolde Fairmont, sent to betray him, became the reason no one ever could. The crown did not forgive easily. If anything, its silence was more dangerous than outrage. Weeks passed without summons, without letters, without public accusation. To outsiders, it appeared as though the matter had been resolved. Another quiet victory for a duke too entrenched to challenge openly. But Lucien knew better. "They are waiting," he said one evening as he and Isolde sat before the fire. The crackle of burning logs the only sound between them. The crown never abandons a failed strategy. It replaces it. Isolde nodded slowly. She had learned to read the subtle shifts in his voice, the moments when tension sharpened beneath his calm. "They'll come for me," she said. "If not directly, then indirectly." Lucien turned to her. "No." She met his gaze. "You married me to remove their leverage. That doesn't mean they won't try to create new pressure." His jaw tightened. "You are my wife," he said. "They will not touch you." "They will try," she replied gently. "Because they believe I was sent to destroy you." "And instead," Lucien said quietly, "you chose me." The weight of that choice still felt unreal some nights. Isolde had lived her life measured in caution, never too visible, never too bold. Now she walked the corridors of Westmere with a ducal crest embroidered into her gowns, servants bowing, nobles recalculating every word spoken in her presence. Power had found her whether she wanted it or not. And the crown noticed. The first test came disguised as courtesy. A formal invitation arrived bearing the royal seal, requesting the Duchess of Westmere's presence at a charity convocation in the capital. Lucien read it once, then handed it to Isolde. "They want to see if you'll stand alone," he said. "If you'll stumble. Or speak," she added softly. "Yes." She folded the letter carefully. "Then I'll go." Lucien's gaze sharpened. "With me?" "No," she said calmly. "With your permission." Silence stretched. This was not the same woman who had arrived at Westmere under threat. She met his authority without fear now. "Let them see me as more than your shadow," she continued. "Let them understand that marrying me did not weaken you." Lucien studied her for a long moment, then nodded. The capital had not forgotten Isolde Fairmont. Whispers followed her through the gilded halls, some curious, some resentful, some openly hostile. A duke's wife who arrived without lineage, a crown agent turned duchess, a woman who knew too much. She smiled politely, spoke little, observed everything. When pressed with questions, she answered only what could not be twisted. When flattery was offered, she declined it with grace. And when a lady of the court remarked loudly, "Some women rise above their station through fortunate circumstance," Isolde met her gaze calmly. "Some," she replied, "rise because they are finally seen." The remark traveled. So did its implication. By the time Isolde returned to Westmere, the crown understood something essential. She was not controllable. The second test was sharper. A royal auditor arrived unannounced, demanding access to Westmere's ledgers. Lucien granted it. Isolde stood beside him as records were inspected. Questions posed, insinuations made. "Your Grace," the auditor said carefully, "your wife's name appears frequently in correspondence during the Crown's investigation period." "Yes," Lucien replied evenly. "She was present. And involved." Isolde answered before Lucien could. "I advised my husband on matters of discretion," she said. "As Duchess." The word landed exactly as intended. The auditor inclined his head. No accusation followed. That night, Lucien found Isolde in the West Gallery, standing before one of the tall arched windows, moonlight silvering the stone floor. "You didn't hesitate," he said. She turned to him. "Neither did you." His expression softened. "You could have let me answer." "I won't be hidden," she said quietly. "Not by them. Not by you." Lucien stepped closer. "I would never." "I know," she said. "That's why I stayed." The truth settled between them slowly, deeply. This marriage, born of threat and necessity, had transformed into something steadier. Lucien no longer saw Isolde as the woman who heard his secret. He saw her as the woman who carried it, and chose not to weaponize it. And Isolde no longer saw Lucien as the dangerous duke she was sent to betray. She saw him as a man who stood between the powerful and the vulnerable, absorbing the consequences so others did not have to. One night, long after the household had gone quiet, Isolde broke the silence. "If the crown ever forces the truth into daylight," she said softly, "I won't regret choosing you." Lucien reached for her hand. "Nor will I," he replied. "Even if it costs me everything." She turned fully to him then. "It already did." His brow furrowed. "You lost your freedom," she continued. "Your solitude. Your ability to act without consequence." "And I gained you," he said. The words were simple, final. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Love did not announce itself. It confirmed itself, again and again. Months later, the crown withdrew its interest. Quietly. Completely. No proclamations. No apologies. Just absence. Westmere remained standing. So did the duke. And beside him stood a duchess no one had anticipated. One who had entered his life as a threat, and became his strongest defense. Isolde Fairmont had been sent to expose a duke. Instead, she learned the truth was not always a weapon. Sometimes it was a bond. And when the crown looked north again, they saw not a man they could break, but a house fortified by loyalty, choice, and a woman who refused to be used twice.